Hi, everyone. Welcome back to week 4. So, this week you talked more about advanced web analytics and web intelligence. And so, I want to just take it a little bit further and kind of apply that more onto the Google Analytics side. So, as normal, go ahead and access the demo account. It's going to load. It's obviously going to do this little communications, hit save, and you're on the master view. So, this week we're going to be looking at two different things. We're going to look at interest and we're also going to look at benchmarking. So, interest is under audience overview, which we are already on. So, go ahead and click on interest. And you're going to see the overview category. Let's go ahead and click on overview. All right. So this is pretty cool. And it also has just a breakdown of all of these segments, but we're going to really just talk about what each of them mean, and then I'm going to show you the in market segments. Okay, so the affinity category is how it is reaching a consumer or a user. So they're saying that 3.63% are shoppers or valued shoppers. And that makes sense because we are assessing the Google Merchandise Store, right? The next thing we're looking at is 3.56%, which is falling under media and entertainment. And as you go down the list, it's kind of just traveling down. And I would assume that this one is kind of like the travel buffs is talking about. This is like the affinity category, people that are traveling probably to California or the Google Center and purchasing items based on what they saw on the website. So, but you can see through this like lifestyle, what they're segmenting their lifestyles, hobbies, outside enthusiasts. It's so interesting to me to see how Google is separating their people. This one's my favorite. So this is the in segment market. We're going to come back to this one because I'm going to go click on it later. And then this is other categories. These are classifying people that are like into the arts and entertainment, TV, online videos. If they just recently, this is life events, right? So if they just recently changed jobs or started a new job, if they recently moved, if they are starting one soon, it's the coolest thing I think that they actually know this information. And this is like, again, based on the interest report. Now I want to look at the in market segment. So go ahead and click on this one. Okay. You can see that this will pull up this really awesome chart, which is actually falling under interest in market segment. And so it's not all users. If you notice, it's only 47.36%. So that is taking it on April 8th to April 14th, which is 4,945 users out of the 10,441 users that they've had this week. So in market segments are they're looking at like employment. So the employment category, people that are employed, I'm not really sure where. It's just saying employment based on what they're talking about. Let's see if we click it, if it might say like where. Okay, so it's actually doing a breakdown of the ages, which is really interesting to me as well. They're looking at like returning users versus new users. You can actually look and dive into like what ages they are. They know this about you. So ages 25 to 34 is actually the top age that is entering new users and returning users. 18 to 24, they are the second highest, almost the same returning users versus new users. 35 to 44, and then the older you are, 65 plus, they are actually falling down to 47 to 43. So let's go ahead and go back to the in segment report. Okay, so that was based on in market segment employment. You can also look at like business service and staffing recruitment services, or looking at the Google Merchandise Store so they know what kind of job they're in. They also know about advertising and marketing, career consulting, investment, productivity software, web design, consumer electronic and mobile phones. So this is really interesting to me. I'm not sure if they would classify me under marketing or post secondary education. Let's go ahead and let's click on post secondary education. So this is interesting. 18 to 24 is actually the ones accessing the post secondary education requirement for the Google Merchandise Store the most. So there actually is several colleges outside of Google, and I'm sure that They all know about the merchandise website because Google partners with colleges pretty well, especially in the California area. So that makes sense why the traditional college age range is falling under the highest for post secondary segments. I would assume that these would be like non traditional students or faculty members of the community close to Google. I think this is really interesting. The 65 plus is actually higher than 55 to 64. Not by much, but according to this week. Now, it will be a little different on yours because I'm doing mine before you're actually doing yours. But during April, 65 plus was number 5, where 55 and 64 were last. So this is something to look at. These are actually behavioral segments, so they know what you are, what you're interested in, what's happening in your life. Analytics can tell you that. Okay, so the second thing I wanted to show you is benchmarking. Go ahead and click that little drop down, and we're going to look at channels. So channels are right now it's comparing it to all. So sessions, you can actually do this. I think sessions is kind of like we do it all the time. So let's go ahead and do bounce rate. Let's see how bounce rate's looking. Okay, so this is really cool. So bounce rate is the dark blue and benchmark sessions are the light blue. They're saying, based on what this is telling me, is that the benchmark was supposed to be down here. And it's not. But it's not as bad as it could be. Something must have happened during these 2 days, making the bounce rate higher than 50, whereas like these 3 days were lower than 50. And actually, today, April 14th was 47.74, so 70. So people they know what they're looking for, I guess, more today. Go ahead and go to benchmark locations. You can also take like, what are you trying to look for? So maybe this time I want to do a dimension of behavior. So let's see here. Let's do page and session and where we're benchmarking. So where are we at? So this is also pretty cool. So they're saying that like the benchmark was to be down here, and they're actually exceeding what they are originally planning for. So that's good. Now the bounce rate was higher, which it should be lower. Their benchmarking was not as in tune on their bounce rate, but they're actually undervaluing themselves on pages and sessions. So this is really cool. We can actually look at this too by month. And we are not in month. Let's do by week. Here we go. Okay. So they're saying this through the week. I just think this is really interesting to know. You can also do benchmarking by device. Forgot about this one. Okay. So it's automatically set to sessions. Let's try average session duration. So how long people are spending. So this one actually is really good too. Their benchmarking was for people to spend an average of 2 minutes straight on to the website, and people are spending more than the average. Now the closest they got to was the 2 minutes and 18 seconds, but they're exceeding their benchmark for what they're wanting their average consumer to spend on the website. So this is actually really awesome. Good for Google. Okay, acquisition. This chart right here, they're saying that like the bounce rate was 100% down. This is actually incorrect data. I'm not really sure. Just go ahead and go through this part, and you can actually customize the dimensions based. You can also do acquisition. So we've already talked a little bit about acquisition. Maybe you want to look at benchmarking on new users. You can see that the new users were higher than the benchmark again. They were saying they wanted it around 1,000, and they exceeded the new users for this week. So go ahead and just kind of play around on the benchmarking and the interest. You can customize the dimensions based on what you're wanting to know. I think it's actually really interesting to see. You can also do this by industry. I forgot to show you that. So let me show you one thing. Let's see. Wonder what cold and flu will do. Not much. Okay, let's do art and entertainment. We'll just do all art and entertainment. So this is saying that I wanted to look at the people who are interested or in the field of industry in arts and entertainment. And they're actually comparing it You can go through and say like, okay, I want to know the United States or another country. And then you can also choose your class size. So it's actually super cool how much you can narrow down, and all of this will change. If you have any questions on anything I've talked about so far, please contact me. I'd be happy to talk you through this again on a Zoom meeting. If not, then I will talk to you next week.